Alrighty, so another happiness class. We do we talk about all sorts of things that are fundamental to our happiness, like relationships, the meaning of life, direction. I think a lot of people have been watching a lot of podcasts, a lot of very famous people are realizing these fundamental truths about human beings that we don't just need to eat, sleep, and I don't do meaningless work. We need to do meaningful things. Otherwise, you literally want to commit suicide. Stephen Fry was saying every time he wants to kill himself, I think he's done three attempts. He's a famous atheist. He has this voice in the back of his head. It says, "What's the point?" So there was a really interesting podcast I watched about him. So yeah, so I talk about all the essential things that we need to feel happy, and one of those things is to feel part of a decent society. And one of the things that frustrate a lot of people is, why are all our leaders so terrible, going around murdering people in other countries and stuff? So that's what we do here. I'm a Muslim. I do happiness classes. Mainly, I focus on non-Muslims because they seem to listen a bit more. Maybe, I'm not sure. And we've got my old friend Claire, the secular Quranist. Do you want to say something
Hello.
about yourself? Hello. So
I
go on.
yes, I'm a secular Quranist, which means I support Sharia for non-Muslims, and I have my own
Oh,
particular
don't say Sharia.
interpretation of
Like,
the
just for
Quran.
people who don't know what, just keep it really simple. So what is like? Pretend people don't know anything. Like
Um,
they probably know what
so
a Quran
I
is. Yeah.
yes, so I support legislation based on Quranic principles, which make people freak out because they'll be thinking of Sharia, and Sharia to them means beheadings and manual amputation and women in burqas, frightening everybody, and the usual Islamophobic tropes. But I'm saying it is necessary in order to have good government to have a moral system that our laws are based on. And it seems that a lot of people can't understand it or pretend not to. But I'm saying, in order to hold your ruling classes to account, you basically have to say, here is a list of rules that represent who we are as a group, a national group or a religious group. And um, so just by knowing the name of this religious group, you'll think, aha, these are people who always do X and never do Y, and
Yes.
but,
You want
and
clear-cut rules, not liberal rules, which are in fact no rules or normative rules, because like it's like today the rules are we like gay people. Yesterday we don't like gay people. Do you know what I mean? Is that what you're basically saying? You want black and white rules that don't keep changing every 5 seconds so we can hold our leaders to account when they break the rules?
exactly. So um, the Noahide laws, which are 7 laws that come from the Babylonian Talmud, um, they claim to be the eternal and universal laws of humanity. And what I do is rank the 4 Gentile religions according to their conformity with the Noahide laws. And this produces a ranking of, Islam because it's
But we're not going to
as
get
the
too
most
technical.
Noahide.
So there's all these religions, and you rank them possibly on lack
According
of
to the Noahide
idolatry and
laws,
stuff like that. Or
yes.
okay, yeah,
And this means Christianity is at the bottom, Islam is at the top, and obviously this is controversial, and people don't want to talk about it. But I think
sure.
um,
But we're gonna
objectively,
march on. I just want to know a little bit about secular Quranism. Let's march on the main topic. So let's do it. So I suppose I will briefly. I promised Claire I won't read this because Claire hates it when I read stuff, which is probably some good. There's probably something good about not reading stuff. Oh, what have I got from my present? Screen. Oh, sorry. There we go. So basically, just so people get an idea of what's happening or the format, let's just say. Um, in the description of every happiness class, I've got a summary of the ideas and the references from the Quran, which is the guidebook for Muslims and actually all of humanity, if anybody chooses. Like Claire is agnostic, doesn't necessarily believe in God, but still finds it as the Quran as a useful guidebook. So I got all sorts of references, but I won't read this, but I'll give you a sort of ideas. There's a massive paragraph trying to summarize everything. Me and Claire have been having a bit of a chat via email about some of the ideas, and I kind of updated it based on that. So thank you, Claire. Okay, I'm just going to throw in the very basics. And when I say things here, they usually upset a lot of people because a lot of people don't want to think that they have to change. They really want somebody else to change, usually their leaders. And so I'm going to throw in some ideas. I'm going to try not to talk too much and then let Claire debate with me and we'll get through this. So first idea is the reason why we have murderous, terrible, corrupt leaders, because we are. And you might say, what? We're not corrupt. Okay, I'll give you a very quick demonstration of how corrupt we are. And Claire did really well, I think. I mean, not did really well, but like explained nicely in our email conversation. Corruption is, how did you put it? Not telling the truth, sticking to the truth? You put it really nicely somewhere. Well, how would you put it, Claire? Because people's idea of corruption seems to be like stealing £1 million or something. But you said something, I'm going to scroll right to the bottom. Corruption is ignoring and denying the truth. Most people lie to themselves and become the biggest victims of their own corruption, which is something I added to my chapter. Is that right, Claire? Am I quoting you correctly? Cool. So if you understand what corruption is, just telling lies, and your corruption as a little person who has no power doesn't really stand out so much. But if you were the same corrupt person with more power, as I said, power corrupts. It's not really power corrupts. Power just amplifies how corrupt you already are. And so a demonstration of how corrupt we already are is loneliness in society. Okay, we are such nasty people in London that we don't even talk to our neighbors because it doesn't do anything for us. We don't get any money out of our neighbors. Okay, loneliness is the biggest killer in London. People don't know their neighbors. So this is just an inkling. If you've got any truth inside yourself, you'll realize how corrupt we already are. And as a symptom of that corruption, we have corrupt leaders, because the corrupt leaders can only take advantage of us when we're all divided, all hating each other, all blaming each other. So, and then therefore, that's the reason why we can't even elect a good government. Like, there's millions of us in London, all over the country. If we were decent people, we could get together and say, you know what, we need to finally get a good person. There must be somebody good in this country, and you can elect them. We got close to that with maybe Jeremy Corbyn. I don't know. That's my opinion, but I've done a lot of talking. What do you think, Claire? Are we really corrupt, evil people, and our leaders are just a reflection of that?
Well, I think one of the problems is that people want to remain in denial. So one of the things I do keep saying, which people hate me for saying, is that Christianity and liberalism have failed, and so has democracy. And obviously, they don't want to hear that, and they'll think, well, it's stood by us so far. We don't want any of your crazy ideas. So they will continue denying that it is actually the problem. Democracy is the problem, and our refusal to fix it, our refusal to acknowledge that it has failed.
Explain why democracy is a problem. I agree with you to some extent.
It has failed because it doesn't help us choose the best leaders. And also the process of democracy is corrupting
Why does it not?
all the people.
Why does it not? Be rude like you are in the emails. Be abrupt, let's say. Because
the political parties will
Shall I quote you? It maybe it's funnier when I quote you. Why doesn't democracy work? Because most people are stupid. So why would you be asking the opinion of most stupid people? And that's what democracy is, right? Democracy would only work if most voters were wise, and we are already we already know they are not. And that's actually not just being insulting, that's psychologically true. So there's a lot of um, age-old information in psychology. Price's law. What was the other one? Petro's. I can't remember. Price's law is the most accurate one, anyway. Right? Essentially, says the bigger the group, the more, let's call them stupid people there are, because when you've got a big group, more people can just hang back and be useless because they know other people will take the weight. Okay, they're thinking you, and so when it comes to voting, most people won't do any research or anything, and they'll just like, I just vote anybody. Which color do I like? That kind of thing, or what? Who told me the biggest lies that make me feel good? I'll listen to them,
Mhm.
which is the normal tactic nowadays. So this is not just Claire being insulting or me being insulting, because I agree with this as well. This is just facts, but most people don't like the facts because you're calling most people stupid. It's just a function of most people don't like to do the work, which is the uphill struggle of thinking. Okay, most people just care about supporting Manchester United or Liverpool. That takes up most of their mind. Or some other sport. I'm not saying sport is bad by itself, but a lot of people don't think much beyond that, right? It's too much hard work, too much seriousness. They rather do something more fun with their time, but actually they don't realize they're the people I find the most miserable and not do much with their lives anyway. So just in case people think that's a good way to live. So yeah, democracy is bad because most people are stupid. Not that I don't hate stupid people. In fact, Islam teaches that be with, I'm trying to get can't remember exact quote, but be with the people at the bottom of society because society stands on their shoulders. So a good example, so just to clarify, a good example is when we were clapping in the COVID times, we were clapping for heroes. And who are the heroes? There were dustbin men, there were the nurses, the people at the bottom of society, right? We were clapping for them, right? Because if we didn't have the dustbin men, we would have Ratatouille and we would all be dead from, the plague too. So I've done a lot of talking. Did I miss something about why democracy
No,
doesn't work?
no. Well, you reminded me of what I actually said, and obviously I was being more polite for the benefit of your viewers. But thank you for quoting my words back at me. I think we should just sort of lay it on the line and take it on the chin.
Sure.
That,
Okay. Yeah, let's throw in something
you know,
really, really annoy
what
people.
we
You didn't
thought
even
was
say this.
working and the best thing in the world is no longer working. Prolong the suffering of people who are victims of bad government and bad
Sure. You
leaders.
know what? I'm going to ask you a hard question. If we don't have democracy, how are we going to get a government? How are we going to choose? Who's going to choose if we don't have a democracy? I've got a
It would be
horrible, mean answer that everybody would hate, but Islam, kind of the history of Islam bears out. But anyway, go on. What are you going to say?
we would have a political class, the only political party in the land where people who are interested in a life of service in politics would go to. So there wouldn't
Oh,
be all
that's
these,
really good.
different parties that is confusing for people who want to
So
join
somehow
politics.
self-selecting people who are used to volunteering maybe to help society, they kind of get into this group by doing X number of years of service, maybe. Is
Well,
that what you
actually, I
mean?
was thinking of the Chinese Communist Party because, it is their elite class and they also pay their membership dues. And I asked one of them, and it's a proportion of their income. They have to pay um, membership fees, but it's based on their
So you don't have to be
ability to
just
pay.
rich. You just have to be committed.
You have to be committed, and there is a kind of entrance examination. They don't take any old rubbish. You have to pass their entrance exam. There is a party training school. That all the things. I mean, they will train you up properly, and then they'll give you jobs and assess you and see. and if you pass all the, the tests, you might become president.
Sure. So maybe some people be concerned that such a democratic system means you have to be an ideologue. You have to think what everybody else thinks, and therefore there's no democracy left. I would argue everybody has to have an ideology that you believe in. So let's say me and you, we're basically saying there should be an Islamic ideology, essentially, because those rules need to work. And it doesn't matter if you call it brainwash with good ideas is great, rather than brainwashed with liberal ideas that destroy society. So you've got to pick which ideology, one way or the other. So I don't think that's what do you think? Like, do you think most people would think, oh, you don't want the Chinese system, they're just brainwashing people and you have to all think the same way, therefore there's no democracy in the first place if you're by default everybody's agreeing with each other anyway? What do you think?
Well, I mean, we have the same tendency because, obviously a lot of people don't want to stand out like a sore thumb. And a lot of people pretend to believe in a lot of things we don't really believe in, just for the sake of peace. So I don't think the Chinese are any different. I mean, obviously if something's working well, you don't particularly want to criticize it. But when it goes wrong, it becomes even worse because to criticize it, because then the people in charge feels insecure and want to call you all kinds of names for criticizing the system. But it is really necessary to have a system of choosing leaders as well as an ideology, as you say. And I'm basically saying it's obvious what is the best religion around. I mean, there's only 5. And you can't expect Westerners to choose Hinduism and Buddhism. And anyway, Hindus and Buddhists haven't really accomplished much or acquired much empire. And most of us are not Jews, and Christianity is kaput. So it's really obvious, but people won't see it that way.
You can see the output.
All kinds of excuses. Sorry?
Yeah, you can see the output. Like, for example, Muslims are having children, other people are not having children. Muslims must be doing something right, especially since having children is a really big problem at the moment, because we've got this population implosion, which Elon Musk says is the greatest danger to humanity at the moment. So Muslims are solving the greatest danger to humanity at the moment. And so maybe that means that Islam is a pretty useful ideology if nobody else can think of a better way to start having children. So what you're saying?
Well, because it's so strict about sex, because it's like, oh well, if you're convicted of fornication, it's 100 lashes, and people can't just sort of pretend it's not there, that verse. Well,
and it's not even just that, because Muslims in the UK are having more kids than everybody else, and they don't get lashed if they do the wrong thing. It's got this whole moral code that seems to work, like family values. You'll be happier if you do the right thing. Like my mom's view of Westerners is she calls them cats and dogs, which means they just screw around and do things randomly, and it looks horrible when you're not part of it. So we don't even need the lashes. It's like, what is this? What's the word? Not decadent, like whatever, like decaying society that if you got higher values, you don't even feel like being part of that broken system that everybody else is part of.
Yeah, you don't want to assimilate into a culture that you disapprove of.
Cool. So here's okay. So I agree with this idea. So we want solutions, and one solution is have less people, because the less people you have, the more responsible each person in that group for choosing leaders is. So less people means less people voting, means less people laying back and expecting somebody else is going to do the intelligent voting. Everybody feels more responsible, as well as they're more educated, and stuff like that. And yeah, so some people might say, the toilet cleaner might have a unique perspective and the toilet cleaner gets to vote. But I think the toilet cleaner could be intelligent. You never know, but the chances are probably not so intelligent. And therefore you're risking the future of your country. Just like if Amazon had a board running. There's 26 people. They won't say, the janitor, call him in, let him have his vote. They don't, because that would be dangerous for the future of Amazon. So we should be equally, even more concerned about the future of our countries and not just let everybody vote. But I'm going to say something else that's becoming increasingly popular, bringing back older traditions and is in line with Islam. And that is only men should vote. That was the original Greek idea, I think. Only men, landowning men. And this is not just being sexist for the sake of it. So there's, Pearly Things. She's very famous. She's been saying that for a while, and she's a lady. It doesn't mean she's right just because she's a lady. But I think there's two sort of, I would say, arguments. First of all, men built the world. It's not like there was some great conspiracy to let women stay out of it. It's just that men are better at certain things, women are better at certain things, and men are better at the sort of macro, unemotional, logical understanding of the world. And if they built the world, they have the best understanding of how we should move forward in the macro. Women are great for micro decisions inside the family, in the protection of the family. And also women are a lot more chaotic. They get emotional. And most women agree to this, unless they're trying to just be difficult. My wife would say, oh, leave my daughter alone. She was just feeling emotional. She didn't mean it, that kind of thing. This is a normal argument. How do you feel about this? Being a woman, being told that you don't need to vote, just let the men do it. And this is the age-old Islamic tradition. In all Islamic systems in the early times, it was always men voting, didn't have women voting. How do you feel about that?
I don't know how voting actually helps. I mean, there shouldn't be a general election because that is very chaotic. What I think should happen is consultation groups under the Islamic principle of shura.
Sure, no, but you have to vote for somebody, and then
so you vote for every group votes for their own leader. So if you're, I don't know,
every local group puts forward a leader from their area. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so if you're an academic, I mean, there'll be a leader representing academics, something like that.
Not by area, but by professional guilds. Okay, interesting.
Okay.
But what about the man thing? Go on. I agree. I get your idea. I agree with the people taking tests, blah, 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 maybe showing commitment, financial commitment, all that kind of stuff, paying more than everybody else's taxes and all that kind of stuff. That's a great idea. But I don't want to go on about this too much, because I want to throw some other ideas in as well. But the men thing, that's nice and controversial. How do you feel about only men being allowed to vote for the two reasons I gave? Men built the world, so they understand how to continue building it, and also they are just not so erratic in terms of emotions and stuff like that.
I don't feel particularly threatened by it, but I mean there will have to be checks and balances, and I'm sure a lot of feminists will be alarmed and threatened by it, but my original idea was that only net taxpayers get to vote, and the Equality Act would be abolished.
Oh yeah, forget equality. That makes sense, because we're not equal anyway, right? Well, I mean, we're equal as we all have an equal right to be alive, I suppose, but we're not equally intelligent or equally responsible or anything like that. So, and even then, just to clarify, I don't think all men should vote. I think maybe
that's right. That was what I was getting around to say.
Yeah. Not
that not even all men ought to vote. I mean, it used to be the case that only married men.
Oh, that's the other point, actually. So that encourages women to be part of a family. So because that man would represent her vote in a way. Do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, like your husband.
Yes, and it used to be argued that women don't actually need a vote because their husband votes for them, and if they cared about their husband, they would vote according to the interests of their husband or their father, the economic interests of their husband or father.
Yeah,
but only if they lived with them.
Yeah, and men have always had greater responsibilities. Like they always had to go to war and do more difficult jobs and life-threatening jobs. And statistically, we're always kinder to women, which makes sense. It's stupid not to be kinder to women. Like in Jordan, we always make sure women sit on a bus first. It's a great insult if women are not sitting down, make an extra effort, treat women differently. And that's just not in traditional societies, even in Western societies by default. Women are treated nicely, so relatively. I think there was a statistic. So if you're in university, you're far more likely to be let off for an equal, I don't know, misdemeanor of some sort, if you're a woman. And if you're a man, you're far more likely to be punished. And if you're a black, then you're even more likely to be punished and stuff like that. So this is a common experience. Men and women have always been treated differently.
Yes, what they call feminine privilege.
Yeah,
maybe.
Cool. Yeah, what was the thing? Was I going to quote something? It's because you're very funny in the email. So the problem is that most men have become women, and denial is a feminine vice. So how is that going to be useful in the discussion? It's like, if you're in denial all the time, you're not going to be very good at voting, like accepting reality. I know that's my
because you
comment.
can't have a conversation with people who deny the very premise of the subject you want to discuss. So I mean, I try like things like what do you think religion is for? And everybody just runs away because they know I'm going to say secular Quranism, because it would be, well, the purpose of religion is to make men and women marry each other and stay together for the then it's like they don't want to know, they don't want to marry, they don't want to and off they go.
All right, okay, so one question was, why do we always get corrupt leaders? The summary of my answer would be, to begin with, I mean, I'm just kind of going through it quickly, is because we are corrupt. When we're less corrupt, we'll be able to choose less corrupt people. That's just a symptom and things like that. We'll just do things more properly. And your answer is that because you wrote an email to me saying we need more rules. And my thought was, no, not really, because the corrupt people are already not following the rules. They're not suddenly going to start listening to the rules. What's your comeback to that?
We can detect the hypocrisy of people if we know what rules they are supposed to follow. So that's why I keep saying we need an official moral system, so people will know, it's these rules, 20 of them,
but the problem is, I agree, but the problem is you're not going to have a better moral system that's black and white, because these corrupt people are the people who are going to let that who's going to allow for this more transparent, more clear rule system if the people are corrupt in the first place? It doesn't make sense. It's like a catch-22. You can't get a better, you can't have a better system that all these corrupt people will suddenly start following and be, shown up for, because they're not going to allow it in the first place, because it's obviously going to get them in trouble.
Well, so we have to start from a different position. So I'm going to say that hypocrisy is the problem, because the 1.9 billion Muslims, there are 15 million Jews, there are 3.2 billion Christians. What do they think they're doing? And it's clear that they don't really believe what they claim to believe. They just pretend.
Yes, so that's hypocrisy. Is not the problem. Hypocrisy is not the problem. Not believing in God is the problem. And people might think, oh, that's a very theoretical answer. I'll tell you what, everything starts from that. Okay, people don't commit to marriage, for example, because they're scared. Oh, we won't have enough money, we won't be able to do this, and something might in the future might go wrong. We won't have children, they're too expensive. Every single moral choice, it sounds theoretical, but that's actually based on psychology as well, really fundamental psychology, which I'll talk about in a second. It starts from a firm belief in God. Okay, and so without that, people think they can get away with all their corruption. It's not hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a symptom of thinking there's no God out there and we can get away with it.
No, hypocrisy is pretending to believe in things that you don't believe in order to.
Why would you pretend it? Well, okay, I'm trying to get to the root cause. I'm not going to keep going round and around about it. You can agree or disagree, but I'm going to say the root cause is a lack of belief in God. Like, what, you couldn't be a hypocrite. Like hypocrisy, a bit like what you were saying, is essentially lying to yourself, like you just said, pretending to believe in something you don't really believe, right? Different kinds of lying to yourself. But if you know there's a God that listens to your thoughts, like all your evil, cunning plans, they start with thoughts, and you can't even have them because God is watching you, then the corruption dies. And by the way, just to clarify, most Muslims don't really act like they believe in God. Yeah, it's just because you're born and give yourself a label Muslim, you might believe it to some extent. So I suppose my question to you is, do you not see that believing in God is fundamental to eliminating hypocrisy? You there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, or this sort of Jordan Peterson idea, to act as if you believe, even if you don't, but you still follow the rule. So
You're going to say the old, I pretend I believe in God, therefore I'll follow.
Well, if some people cannot really believe, it's sort of like, yeah, but you still have to obey the laws, because if you don't, you're going to get punished. So that would be your reason, even if you don't believe in God. But
See,
obviously,
what
it would
you're
help if you
talking
actually
about
believed in
is
it.
you're talking about a situation when all the good stuff has started happening, all the laws are in place, and you're a minority, and you just go along with it. But we're trying to get to the beginning of the revolution. I mean, people will just follow along like sheep, like most people do, okay, when things are good. So when you set up good things, just like when parents do good things, like they behave and stay married, then their children are benefiting, right? That's great, okay? But we're talking about the early stages when we don't even have that Islamic society yet. And I'll just tell you, just to make things feel better, right? We're already going through the revolution. Fastest growing religion in the world is Islam. The reason why it's getting more Muslim MPs, even if they're not behaving exactly like Muslims yet, they're reflecting more and more Islamic values. It's not an accident. Okay, so here's my next question. I've just demonstrated to you that the grassroots revolution is working. It's working slowly. People want to have it happen in 1 second. Do you disagree with this grassroots methodology for a revolution?
What do you mean, the presence of Muslims in the West and the perception that they at least are getting married and
Not the
having children?
perception. They are going to take over the population. Statistically, all the white people and everybody else are dying out. They're halving each year, and we're doubling roughly. Maybe that's exaggerating, right? Okay. So there was a statistic that I heard on some podcast that by 2050, Muslims and black people will be 50% of the population of England or something, right? Pretty not too far off, right? We would have taken over. And it's not some violent revolution. All we did is have principles, stuck to the principles. The principles make us win nice and slowly, comfortable, no fighting. We win. That's called a grassroots revolution. Your idea, which you seem to be stuck on, okay, is that it has to be top down because you want your secular Quranism book to be famous, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, let go. You can see, just stick to the grassroots revolution, rewrite that part of the book, and accept that grassroots revolution is the only thing that has any evidence of working.
Well, yes. I mean, you can wait. I mean, I'm just hurrying it along. That it should be seen as a pincer movement from the bottom and the top. So people will just think, oh well, if you can't beat them, join them, and in doing so, save themselves a lot of trouble and improve government sooner than waiting for everything to collapse.
Telling people who don't want to listen isn't going to do much. I mean, anyway, okay.
Well,
All right,
the
okay.
thing is, no. I mean, the thing is, they'll remember, even if they hate it, and then at least you can say, "I told you so," rather than never having told you.
You want to say, "I told you so." Anyway. All right. Okay. Protest. Okay. Let me put it in this is most reasonable way. Okay. Maybe I won't put it in a reasonable way. I'll start with a simple way, right? So protest. What is a protest? It's complaining about a problem that usually probably took generations to happen. So let's call it the protest for the Palestinians, right? Absolutely, it's terrible what's happening to the Palestinians, right? Okay. Does that mean you don't protest? Well, let's think about this. It seems to be having some effect because it's upsetting the elite. And they're trying to shut it down. So yeah, it's having some effect. But the Palestinians didn't get in trouble just yesterday since October 7th. This has all been building up. The Israelis have been getting away with murder literally for a very long time, and they're just getting more and more bold, just getting more and more weapons, and just getting more and more extreme because they've got away with it for generations. So the people need to get to the root of the problem. There's no point shouting at the band-aid or something, like what they call it. That's American in the plaster. It's like, oh, just trying to fix things on the surface and complaining. And it's like, oh, you evil leaders, like, where do the evil leaders come from? You voted for them. So maybe some fundamental stuff needs to happen. Otherwise, it will just carry on happening. So what is the fundamental stuff? I've already told you, you don't like it. First of all, believe in God, then become a Muslim. Then you'll get together and vote for decent people, because people might think, oh yeah, like they keep lying to themselves. We keep talking about like lying to yourself is corruption, right? You cannot get together without religion. Okay, it might sound crazy, but just because you don't like it doesn't make it, untrue. Statistically, as there's less religion, even Christianity, right? People are less together. They don't talk to each other. People are more lonely. Religion has always had this function of at least once a week getting everybody together. So Christianity used to get everybody together on Sunday, and the shops would close. Only even when I was younger, the shops used to be more closed, right? Then what was it? Judaism has Friday. No, Judaism has Saturday. Islam has Friday. We all get to, all the main religions at least, we get people together at least once a week as a community to do something other than shopping, just gets people together more. Without religion, no chance. You can see as society becomes godless, become more lonely. There's so many statistics out there. I can't even bother to memorize them. Like nobody, like the average American or something has 0 people that they can depend on or something. In like in this country, you'd have like 10 people at least. Do you know what I mean? That you can depend on, because you still have your family. Actually, your family actually still cares about you. Anyway, so protest is a short-term solution to a problem that has taken a long time to occur. You're not going to click your finger like a baby to solve the problem. Yeah, it's really nice. I actually like all the videos where you got Code Pink and all these other people protesting. They're doing something that's good, but it's not going to get to the root of the problem. And the reason why we don't want to get to the root of the problem, because it means we have to change instead of just the people we hate, which is somebody else called our MPs or leaders. How do you feel about that?
What is the question? Sorry.
I know, I should have summarized at the end. Okay, so my question is, and I'm thinking about, because I know you agree with it a lot. Okay, so let's put it simply. So do you think protesting is a short-term solution to a long-term problem?
I think you kind of need to show that lots and lots of people, feel strongly enough about this cause to show up on a Sunday. So I think it kind of sent a message to the neocons who are saying, like, look at these protests. They're not all Muslim. Quite a lot of them are white. These anti-Semites. Because that was what really kind of freaked them out. That, there were so many of them, and not, and there were a lot of white faces. And the tradition has been that if you were Western, you unquestioningly supported the idea that Israel is a good thing because it's the only liberal democracy in the West, in the Middle East, and that was considered to be a good thing. But now, a lot of people are saying, well, why are we doing it? Why do we have to be there? Questioning the whole idea altogether. So I guess it was necessary to kind of turn up. I mean, I was at the Hyde Park march against invading Iraq. Well, I know they just ignored us, but I was glad that I went there. It was a good
I went as well.
experience. Oh,
Well, that's surprising. But I didn't take it too seriously. Not most people took it. I mean, people thought it was a party, basically. Just like most of the environmental protests, a lot of the kids who go to those ones, they say, yeah, it's a big party and stuff like that. But
I mean, what struck me about it was that the far right and the far left were there. It's just united everybody in a way. That the far right and far left were attending.
Yeah. It was quite shocking, I think, at first. That was the beginning of our endless invasions. Now we just got used to it. Like, oh, we're gonna invade another country and kill the millions of people. Oh, okay, got used to it now. So I think people protested a lot more for Iraq because it was relatively new then. We just started off killing more people. Well, not just started killing more people, but like it was insane levels. Okay, so the other thing about protests is that it actually saps our ability to do something useful. So when you go for a protest for a day and then you look around and go, oh, the world hasn't changed. What? Don't mean I have to protest another weekend. This is way too hard, right? Okay, so that kind of mentality doesn't really help because it's going to actually take years of a lot more, slow and hard work, stuff like that. So I suppose my question is, do you agree that protests actually saps your ability to actually make real change?
I don't know. I just think sometimes when I post something on social media, I am in a way protesting against mainstream opinion.
Yeah.
By
Maybe I'm talking about the street
signaling
march.
that I disagree with whoever posted whatever they did.
I do believe in consistently at the grassroots level trying to convince my nearest and dearest. Like we have a responsibility, and we're most effective in telling our children, brothers and sisters, whatever, family, close friends, right? What we think. And we have the most responsibility towards them. So I do believe in like consistently whoever's around us changing their opinion slowly. Suppose let's think about it. So okay, I mean, what do you think about that? So I think what you were talking about when you're doing a tweet, there's kind of different kinds of protests. There's the one-offs, and there's a consistent educational kind of protests. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Education is not something you do once a year.
In different ways.
Hmm.
So I mean,
Okay.
so I do talk about it to people I know, and I also talk about it to people I don't know.
Okay, I mean, this is something I do struggle with a little bit because I do like that there's a million people going out protesting, for the Palestinian cause when people are dying. It's better than people just like, oh, okay, won't do anything, just like do nothing at all. So I can see that side of things, better than nothing. And I sometimes think I'm going to misuse a word called autistic, like this kind of black and white, only do what's logical. I think most people are not logical, so they like the drama of the protests, and it gets people who would do nothing at all to get behind something, because the idea of doing a long-term thing when you're building society, making people better, that's way too complicated for the average person, because they're more interested in pizza or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the pizza, forget the Palestinians sort of thing. Like the attention span is relatively small. So it gets them to do something. How do you feel about that? So protest has a value. It scares the elite. and it's good for the average person who doesn't like thinking too much. It gets them behind something. How do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I suppose if you're a political activist, you think, well, every little helps, that somebody bothered to show up or say something or share something or whatever. So it's hard to say, really. Perhaps it does make an impression, even if the media make a point of not reporting it, which they do now. It's like, well, it was quite a sizable protest, but they chose not to mention it.
Have you been to any of these pro-Palestinian protests?
I haven't.
I'm not testing you, but I'm thinking the reason why they're big, even though there are white people there as well, it's actually because there are mainly Muslims there. And this is this is my theory. I mean, it's not just a theory, even though I'm in Jordan, by the way, for people who don't know, so I'm not in London to see what's exactly happening. The reason I point this out is that if you go to Speaker's Corner, which is a famous debate place in central London, Hyde Park, it's mainly Muslims there. And the reason why it's mainly Muslims there is because, let me put it this way, let's say the atheists, they're so depressed and they know their ideas don't work. They really struggle to turn up, and when they debate Muslims, it's really easy to destroy the atheist argument. So they just get tired. Like I was debating another person called, what was it? Oh my God, it's terrible. Dust, right? And then one day he just gave up. It's like he just had enough of losing, right? So on my live stream. So it's just, my point is that when you believe in God, coming back to this this process, you believe in God, then you have some sort of inner strength. Without God, you have no strength, no consistency, no conviction to get married, have children, do anything useful, debate, stand up for yourself or anything. You just give up. You lie down. We're in groups that you keep inviting me with all these white supremacists. They're all just people who've given up, isn't it? They're just given up. Right?
Well, it's not just. Well, I guess they haven't if they're still complaining, but it is the quality of their discourse, which is about how much they hate, A, B, and C group. And
that's crybaby stuff. That's not really arguing. They're not going to come to Speaker's Corner and debate on camera because they know they can't do their private insults on those WhatsApp groups or whatever it is, right? So my point is, there's no vigor, no strength without belief in God. And that's what the Muslims have, and that's the reason why they're dominating everything, including like public debate places like Speaker's Corner, and they're going to keep. I bet most of the people who are pro-Palestinian protesters are Muslims, and that's why it's got so much strength.
Yes, because if you have the conviction of your principles, then you're going to act on them.
Yeah.
So even if you maybe didn't.
Where does the conviction come from? Let me just ask you that.
Certainty.
No, but where does the certainty come from? Why do Muslims have so much certainty and conviction that they can mentally handle so much? We were talking about why so many people are converting to Islam, looking at the Palestinians, who I don't totally agree with, right? I think they've made a lot of mistakes as well, right? But they have their arms falling off and they're happier than most Westerners, right? They're getting blown apart. Yeah, they're crying, and then they're like smiling on pictures and like, no arms and stuff like that, right? Their mental strength about 1 million times more than the average Westerner, who's like that. And the most common way for a young man to die is suicide at the moment, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. These people who are having their arms blown up are not committing suicide. So the question to you is, and I've already given my answer, you know my answer, but I want to hear a different answer maybe. How do if you want to change government, you have to have conviction. You have to have certainty, to use your word. Where do the Muslims have gained this massive amount of certainty and strength and inner conviction? Where do they get it from?
From their beliefs and from each other and from the Quran.
Beliefs? Which beliefs?
Yes.
Any particular beliefs?
Well, Islamic beliefs. That they're supposed to, in theory, share belief in God.
Essentially, I would say belief in God. Without that, everything falls apart. That's what I see in practice. The people I come across, Belief in God is incredible. So I don't want to keep repeating that, but it's incredibly important. People think that it's just a theoretical idea to believe in God. What's the point? It's incredibly powerful. It's all changing. Even if you're not a Muslim, if you are of some other belief, you have way more conviction. Look at the, I don't know, look at the, what's it called, Orthodox Jews, loads of children. Look at the, who are those other Christians, those the ones who lives in fields and stuff, and they have millions of children.
Amish. The
Amish, right? Well, yeah, I Amish, yeah, exactly, yeah, that kind of stuff. But some of them things are not sustainable, no technology and whatever. I think there's also the weird problems that happen with the Amish. But anyway, nice enough idea, I suppose. Yeah, so okay, cool. Okay, what's another thing we can do for the last 10 minutes? Is anything that kind of stood out to you from what we read? What were we discussing about this topic that you felt like we haven't talked about?
I think really people are just not getting it about having a belief system that states its principles clearly. Because if you, okay, I don't want to. I don't know if I've used this example before, but just imagine if Americans were Nazis. To be a Nazi is a very strong identity, which stands for a lot of things like being mean to Jews and being militaristic, etc. But if people knew what they were and what their values mean about how they should behave and how they should think, then their group identity becomes strong. It's only when you're not really sure about anything, whether God exists, whether your ruling classes are doing the right thing, what your principles are, which have never been codified, so you don't exactly know what they are. Christians don't have principles. It's Muslims with their 5 pillars of Islam, Jews with their 10 commandments, and all these codified principles will help in maintaining the identity of the group and informing the individual member what they're supposed to be thinking and doing. And that gives rise to certainty if they live amongst, other people sharing their beliefs, because then it becomes mutually reinforcing.
Yeah, let me try to give an example of why that's important, because that might sound really theoretical. So I'm living in Jordan, and they have basic Islamic ideas, even though not everybody's a Muslim, right? Like you should say, I mean, it doesn't happen perfectly, but at least people they all know these ideas that they've been taught. Like, for example, in Islam, it's considered a good thing that you smile at other people, that you are neighborly. Neighbors are very high regard in Islam, right? It's all over the Quran, right? So smiling at people is considered a charity and a good thing to say. Saying hello, peace be upon you. So just recognizing each other really connects you. So you have a mass, like, it really uplifts you as a human being. You actually feel connected as a human being in such a society. It's normal for people to smile and be social with you. In England, as you have the exact opposite. It's so horrible. You're not allowed to smile at everybody. Literally the opposite. So these rules, if there's and let me just clarify a bit more. I think British people or Londoners would like to smile and say hello, because I'm sure they'd have had enough of being depressed and lonely. Nobody wants to be lonely, right? So they would like that. But the problem is they haven't got an agreed upon set of rules that said you should talk. Like in Islam, you're supposed to. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said you should say peace be upon you, assalamu alaikum. You should. You're wrong if you don't. As a bad person if you don't. Like, it's very clear. And when people don't have that, even if they want to say hello, they can't, because it's not one of the rules. Just to clarify that even more, when you've got all these street parties every time, I don't know, the queen gets a bit older or somebody becomes a king and all this kind of stuff. everybody's really eager to have these street parties. They're all over London, okay? But before that, nobody talks to their neighbors. Everybody just wants permission. Rules give people permission to the things they actually want to do. Is that what you were saying, or what? About why do we need the rules that everybody agrees with? Because rules sound boring to liberal people. Liberal people don't want any rules. They want to do whatever they want. So, okay, I've given an argument. You don't have to give my argument. What's your argument for having rules that everybody knows?
So people can do things automatically without thinking about it. I think that is it.
Like saying hello and smiling.
Yeah, like saying hello, smiling, saying good morning, that sort of thing, because that would be a good rule. Because
and that
it's
was
polite. It's showing that you're civilized.
It's actually a Christian rule to say peace be upon you, because Jesus used to do that. And I've seen some movie where all the people in some American church were all saying peace be upon you to everybody, which is a Muslim thing and a Jewish thing as well. They say shalom alaikum, right, or shalom for short. So these are all old rules that have died out because religion has been dying out. Okay.
Or just a friendly greeting is usually good enough, good morning.
But the thing is, when you go, it's just this or just that, then people stop doing it. Like really clear rules. And you know what? Hello. What the heck does hello mean? What does hello mean? Nothing, right? It's a greeting. But how about peace be upon you? And when you know what that really means, because in the Arabic it's more meaningful, it means like, I promise. This is based on some saying of the Prophet Muhammad. I promise not to do hurt you with my hands or my tongue. That's way more amazing than hello. Like there's no promise there, so it's better to have a better saying than an average saying. So, okay, what's this? Bubblegum. What have you got to say? Leaders are chosen by people, but the masses are awful. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I don't know if you heard the beginning, but. Yeah, I totally agree with you. We need to raise the standard of the masses, first of all, because I agree with you that the corruption of leaders are just a symptom of the corruption or the disease in society. But that doesn't mean you give up. It means you do something about it, because I'm a bit worried. Bubblegum leader, whatever. Bubblegum, what do you think? Do you think we should actually try to improve or just give up and die? What do you think? I think you know Bubblegum. I think he's a regular here.
Yes.
Okay. What does Bubblegum normally say in those Telegram groups if he's part of them? Does he just say give up and die, or what does he normally say?
I don't know him from Telegram. I know him from Church of Entropy. I think he's Mexican and atheist. That is all I can remember about
the Mexican, but the atheist means usually give up and die, because there's no meaning in life. Okay, but I appreciate Bubblegum keep coming here at least. Bubblegum, what do you think? Should you just give up and die? You can speak for yourself rather than us speaking for you. What else?
Changing the title of this to Sharia in the West would get you good leaders.
Maybe. I normally ignore what you've got to say, just joking, but maybe. Well, she said, lol, I'm not an atheist. Good for you. Are you Mexican though? Was she half right? I'm actually more hopeful now. You've got a chance. Hopefully you're not suicidal because you're not atheist. Are you Mexican, Bubblegum? Okay, what else have we got to say for the last 2 minutes? You don't want to say? Don't be sad don't be ashamed. You should be proud of being a Mexican.
Well, I don't know what his religion is now. Is he an Aztec?
Are you an Aztec? Just be a Muslim is much better. Much more useful. Okay.
I remember you saying anti-religion things.
Yeah, I was going to say why being an atheist is a really bad idea, but I won't even waste my time on that. I think we should fight and conquer, or we'll agree we should separate. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Well, you're going to have a war by yourself against somebody else. I don't know what that means. Okay, so you're not going to win. You're just going to be crushed by all the Muslims. Don't fight, okay, unless you become a Muslim, okay? Because you're going to be one of those lonely, normal, liberal people. I don't know what you are. A Mexican, excellent. Yeah, forget Aztec. They died out, isn't it? For a reason. They screwed up something.
Well, they didn't agree with the rule of no killing each other.
Yeah, that's a good rule. Yeah, don't start killing each other. All right, so I've got hope for you, Bubblegum. You're not atheist and Mexican. Maybe you're a hard worker. Who knows? So you got a backbone still. All right. Thank you very much, Claire. Hopefully that was insightful to somebody out there. I do hope you change your life. Somebody out there. One person changing their life will be wonderful. Bubblegum, if it's you, that would be fantastic. So, what are the takeaways so people would know what to do to change their life? My takeaway, one takeaway, everything will be solved. Just believe in one God, the most realistic idea. God is not a cow, not a cat, not a whatever, not a white man. Those things don't make sense. Okay. If you have a dumb idea of God, then you don't really believe, you can't really believe in that, and you can't have the conviction to change your life. As soon as you realize there's God, and you absolutely have to, it's the only logical, this all this stuff didn't just happen by itself. That your camera didn't make itself. The universe is way more, the world is way more complicated. You are way more complicated. So definitely God exists. You're complete denial and being corrupt if you disbelieve in God. Okay, once you have that, you will suddenly realize everything makes sense. There has to be a reason. You'll start finding the reasons. The answers will come to you very quickly. That is Islam, etc., right? Islam actually fundamentally believes in all the other religions. They just got corrupted, which also makes sense. Why would God suddenly just start talking when Prophet Muhammad comes up? He was always talking to people. That's what the Quran says. So my advice for you, if you want to change your life, believe in God. Then what will happen is all the good stuff will happen. You will be mentally stable. You won't want to kill yourself like people in the West want to do at the moment. You actually be able to have a marriage that lasts, because you need conviction for that, and only religious people seem to have enough conviction for that. Then you will have the guts to have children. Then you will have a extended family. You actually want to talk to your neighbors. You'll build, like the circle of connection will keep growing. Your street will be connected if you have all Muslims, right? Okay. And by the way, I was in London and I was the only person giving presents to everybody, connecting everybody. Everybody was just like miserable by themselves otherwise, right? Okay. Even though they're nice people, I don't want to insult them, but they're pretty depressed, right? So it just keeps going, and then you actually have the conviction to build a real community, like Muslims have real communities, right? And then that's why all the MPs come to us and come to our mosque and say, please vote for us, right? That's what will happen. So that kind of stuff. So blah, 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 you'll change the world really easily, no guns needed. So that's my solution. What's your solution, Claire? And then we will wind up, and maybe everyone should fight their own side. You're going to die. Just become a Muslim, Bubblegum. It's not your ideas are terrible. Okay, so Claire, your solution, and we'll wind up.
I tend to agree that a simple and strong system of belief is more likely to imbue with hope for the future than, oh, I don't know why I'm here. Maybe it's all meaningless, and perhaps I'll just end it tomorrow because nobody cares.
How come you're not suicidal all the time, Claire? You're agnostic. Agnostic is good enough. You might as well just be an atheist. You can't just pretend to it's like being an agnostic is like you could be agnostic about believing water exists. You stop drinking water. I'm not sure if water exists. Like, we've been talking a lot. You should just at least stop becoming just believe in God at least, with certainty.
I do, acknowledge the existence of the hypothetical supreme authority, as I must do as an agnostic, because a lot of people sort of think, how can you say this if you're an agnostic? And I say, well, actually, I have to look at the world through two lenses, through an atheist lens and through a theist lens.
God doesn't need your help. You keep thinking you have to pretend to be an atheist.
It's not about helping God. It is about having two theories that confirm a course of action. So if common sense tells you that you should have laws against murder, and God says so, then obviously you should have laws against murder.
I'll tell you what would make me really happy, Claire. If we had every time I try to give you a logical discussion, I've got used to you now and I kind of realize what's happening. So this is a proposal. Like if I if we talk about the existence of God, and if I give you a logical reason, because one of the chapters or episodes in my happiness classes is proving God exists and why God matters. Normally, when I say, here's a logical reason why God exists, Claire, you kind of go blank because you can't. You're doing the woman thing that you say, like being in denial, right?
No, I'm not in denial. I accept the theory. That the whole, all the arguments, if there was a creation, there must have been a creator, and that creator was God.
Yeah.
I
mean,
do accept
why
it.
would you believe that there's no God if all the arguments are for
But
God's
I'm not an atheist. I'm just an agnostic, is somebody in
You can't
between
sit on
saying,
the fence about this kind of
well,
stuff. I
I
don't think there's
have
a
to
point.
because, well, I hope you will listen to my stream with Vincent today, because I have to accept that most people in the West are agnostic. And
Oh, so God needs your help again.
no, it's not about God needing my help, but that these people need.
These atheists need a clear role model, Claire. You don't tell them to sit on the fence. They're already killing themselves. They need something clear. Believe in God. There's no such thing as I might believe in water or something. You believe in water and have a drink, or you're not sure and you don't have a drink. Do you know what I mean? And you die. Same thing with God and all that kind of stuff. You absolutely have to have a belief in God. All right, I'm going to leave you alone. I really appreciate your time, Claire. You always come with good ideas.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm glad to have people who actually want to come on my stream. That's really nice. Thanks,
perhaps you ask
Bubblegum.
Vincent again. I think
I will. I'm trying to think of a thing where I want to talk to Vincent about something where we don't fight and he doesn't say crazy stuff. He's intelligent, but he just says crazy stuff like, oh, we're going to have fake wombs and stuff like that. And so I can't be bothered with that anymore. So I'm thinking of like, maybe we'll talk about, I don't know, religion and how religion is useful, because at least we agree, like he's already stealing Islamic ideas and that's progress at least. So maybe we'll talk about that, something useful. I don't want to talk about being gay or something.
Oh, no. I think he's
just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I mean, he seems to be, somewhat reconnecting to his childhood of being a Jehovah's Witness, and actually saying that him being a Jehovah's Witness has actually helped him do well at school.
Yeah.
And he was saying that maybe Muslims don't learn about their religion so well.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I tell him, try to become a Muslim before Claire. That would be fun. That would be nice. Anyway, all right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Peace be upon you. Have a great week. Hope you learned something useful. Just believe in God and solve all your problems. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.